Hey, I'm Kyd The Band, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
It's so good to reconnect with you. It's been a couple years, and since then, you've been releasing more and more material. But not only that, your evolution has been pretty insane, from your songwriting to your vocal techniques to even the music itself. So let's talk a little bit about the new EP, which is season 4. And this is the final series of these EPs that you released over the last year. But what was that like for you, and how do you feel you evolved within each EP from this series or season?
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. First, I just want to say thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. You've been a long time supporter, and I appreciate everything. But yeah, so obviously, season 4 is the finale of this season's kind of concept and way I've been releasing music. And season 1 started in 2017, and my brother was a part of Kyd The Band at that time. And obviously, sonically, it's kind of evolved since then. Season 1 was a little more alternative leaning. It felt more like band, electric guitar, more rock. And then, from there, season 2 leaned a little more pop and rhythmic. And then I feel like after that, season 3 and 4, and kind of where my head has been, is just kind of in between those two kind of like polar opposites of just alternative, also rhythmic. And so I feel like I've been trying to just have it be a blend of both those two worlds. So hopefully, it comes across that way. But yeah, that was where my head was at.
Now that was one of the biggest surprises for me, was the fact that when we spoke in 2019, your sound was more alternative.
Yeah.
And right now I get to hear your vocals a lot more, and I feel like you're showcasing your vocals and your vocal ranges a lot more. So in saying that, how would you say that you've evolved as a singer, and what kind of challenges do you feel you faced in order to get to where you're at today vocally?
I feel like when I first started writing songs, I feel like I would always try to write things that felt easy to sing in the moment. And it's one thing, like, a lot of times you'll hear like artists or bands, you'll hear a record and then it sounds great vocally, and then you'll hear it live and you're like, oh man, like, you can tell that was just a hair out of that vocalist's range. So I never wanted that to be the case for me. Like, I never wanted to sound worse live, or hopefully, and so I think that was kind of like in the back of my mind when I was first starting to write for myself. And then I think just, your vocal cords are like a muscle, and the more you use them, I think the stronger they get, and just the more comfortable and confident I got as a singer, I realized that, hey, I can like take some more risks and go for, some of these, just like these songs that I just push myself way more. And I was really happy with kind of how, like, season 3 and season 4, there's a couple songs where I really are kind of rangy and like are really like belty too. And I was happy to hear how that came recorded, because sometimes you hear yourself recorded too and you won't like it. Like, you might be able to hit notes or do a certain thing, but when you hear it recorded, it doesn't always come across the way you hear it in your mind. So I was really happy about that. And then I think it just took, like, when you push yourself you vocally too, like, there's a certain like just rawness and emotion that can come with that too. And that just also was something that I wanted to really have. My music, I've always tried to have it be just real and raw and honest. And sometimes, you got to make sure the vocal compels and also conveys that. So I think I had to really push myself.
As you mentioned, raw and honest, I feel like this final season gives us the most vulnerable Kyd The Band yet, and specifically with real plop Man, I can't even speak.
It's a tongue twister, man.
Real Problems, and as well as Somebody's Song, which are the two, probably my two favorite from this final chapter of your EP series. But tell me a little bit about like getting as vulnerable as you did with these tracks, and was this an easy thing for you to do, or did you feel more challenged because this was an even more serious topic?
Man, I feel like with Real Problems, that was probably the hardest, just because that song, that was the first song that was ever pitched to me as an outside idea, like that coming to me. Like somebody sent me the chorus, and the chorus was almost what it was now. But I heard it, and it immediately just kind of struck a nerve, kind of with me, just because I feel like everything that the hook was saying about, like, you know, it took some real problems. It took me going through some actual real life things for me to grow and become stronger, but also to like become who I am now. I feel like that's been such a, just the overarching theme of my life and career so far. And so that just like really, really hit home with me. And so when I went to write the verses and kind of, you know, finish the song, that was kind of hard, just because there's just, you know, a lot of reflecting, and sometimes when you revisit things in the past, like it's not a fun experience, but I felt like it was necessary. And that song, I don't know, that one is my favorite actually off the EP. Somebody's Song, I remember that song, writing that song because I was listening a lot to Elton John's Rocket Man, and I wanted to write a song that felt like that, but just be, you know, like tell like a you know, my story. And I think, you know, in the past, like I've written a lot about songs that like about hurt and pain, and I think Somebody's Song is kind of the culmination of like just the experiences and the people in my life that have been kind of like source, like subject. I never thought like those people were going to be that for me. So like that's what Somebody's Song is about. So yeah, those are two heavy songs for sure.
Yeah, and I love that you paired Real Problems with Taylor. What was it about her that made you want to collaborate or bring her into this track? And what was it like once you both realized you were both kind of going through similar situations?
Yeah. Well, man, she was actually a part of the hook originally. Like she was one of the writers on the hook that was sent to me. And so the first thing I heard was her vocal in that hook. And I was just like, man, like this sounds real and it sounds honest. Like whoever's singing that, I really believe like every word she was singing. So I was just like, I would love for her to be on this with me and, you know, stay on it. And she was so kind enough to do it. But then when we started talking about the music video, that's when we kind of realized that, hey, like, I think what we wanted to share, like visually, it came from the same, like kind of similar, you know, experiences for both of us. And that was just kind of wild. I think just more affirming of like the collaboration of itself. You know, I've always tried to be like mindful of like black collaborations that I do, and not have them feel random. You know, I want them to feel like actual, like real collaborations. And Taylor, it was very much that. So like hearing that was just like, it was just kind of a sign that, yeah, hey, this is meant to be. So that was cool.
I love that, you know, when I look at these 4 seasons, you have various producers that kind of came in and collaborated with you throughout. What was your reasoning behind having different producers come in rather than having one producer stick throughout the entire 4 seasons?
Well, man, so the first one was my brother and I on production. And then the second one, I wanted to just kind of get outside the box and get outside my comfort zone. And I mean, I have a friend, Aaron Chafin, who he did a lot of songs on that second season, and he's kind of stuck with me throughout, you know, like the next 2 EPs. So he definitely he's like one of my main collaborators. But yeah, I mean, I did vary it up from song to song. And I think my goal behind that was just like, I knew like the type of song that I had, and I knew the right guy for the job, if that makes sense. Like, so it's almost like I felt like I was almost like subcontracting coming out, being like, hey, like I know exactly what the sound needs, and I know like the guy has what I think this song needs. In production, like I'm super involved in every aspect, so I know as long as like I was kind of like steering the ship, that it would feel cohesive and work. Having all these different kind of like creative forces on the same project. So that was kind of my thought process behind that.
As you mentioned, stepping out of your comfort zone, what do you feel was the biggest challenge for you throughout these 4 seasons?
Man, I would say the season 2, just doing music without my brother.
Hmm.
That was definitely the hardest thing. I never imagined that I would do music without him. And I didn't really want to do music without him. And so season 2, like those songs and just going through the whole experience of, signing to a record label and doing my own, and realizing that, hey, like I still can do this and feel like passionate about it and love it, and still have something to say. Like that was just like a really like eye-opening experience for me, and it was encouraging too, because like I said, I didn't know if I could do it or if I wanted to, so it was cool.
Yeah, it's tough to go through situations like that and still have that energy or that fire burning
Right.
inside to kind of keep going. Do you feel that at times you want to give up, or do you feel like that's long gone? Like you know this is what you're meant to do, and this and whatever it takes, you're gonna make it happen.
Man, I've like my mindset has always been whatever it takes, I'm gonna make it happen. But then I experience like like every couple of months I'll experience like, hey, like I don't want to do this anymore. And it's not because I lose desire for it. It's because I feel like I'm not good enough.
Wow.
It's, I think, the self-doubt aspect of it, and that's what I wrestle with more so than anything else, of just like, I'm not cut out. Like, this is not what I should be doing, because I'm not good at it. So that's what I experience more so than, yeah, wanting to quit.
That's crazy. During this last year, as we've been having to stick with Zoom instead of in person, I've been going through that. I've been replaying that over
Really?
and over in my head. And sometimes I feel like an imposter. Sometimes I feel like, why am I even here? How am I getting these opportunities? But I don't know. Maybe it's just because we are as isolated. We're isolated now instead of actually doing this in person. But
Yeah.
for you personally, like when you've gone through these situations, what really helps you overcome it?
I I think one thing that helps is not making like impulsive decisions, because like you're saying, I feel like being isolated over the last year and a half like has worn on me mentally more than I think I've realized and accepted. And I feel like just like this year I've started to be like, man, I think actually like that got to me. And I think not making decisions in the moment based off like fleeting like emotions really helped. Um, and then two, just like for me, I've just been like trying to get back to the core and root of why I do any of this. And that really helped me, and just kind of take a step back, because I feel like last year was like just a big reset button for everybody, right? Like whatever you had going on immediately halted and stopped, and everybody's in that same boat. And I think too, like that also helped, like just realizing that you're not alone, even though you felt very much alone. Like that really helped me, just realizing that, hey, like I'm in this boat with a lot of different people here. I'm not the only one. So I was really kind of encouraged and comforted by that.
Since we're on the topic of mental health, what advice would you give your listeners that are struggling with this as well, just like you and I have been over the last year?
Man, it's just as important as your physical health. Like if you're struggling and dealing with something up here, like that is it's so powerful and it's so impactful on every other aspect of your life. Um, And so, like, if something's going on, like I just hope and pray that people do not feel ashamed to admit that to somebody, and to kind of raise their hand and say, like, hey, I'm not doing all right and I need some help. And I hope and pray that people on the other end of that, just extend grace and love and patience and a helping hand, and not any sort of judgment or like just condemnation for that person, to be like, to think lesser of them just because. I feel like, man, the battle's in your mind. Like, that's where the real battle is for everything in your life. So it's you got to stay right up there.
Right. Now, lastly, to close us off, like this, when I first got to talk to you, you were in the cycle for this time last year. And from then to now, like, how would you say this evolution has been? Would you say the evolution has been a drastic evolution in your sound, your vocals, your songwriting, or would you say it was a natural progression because of everything that you had experienced?
I would like to think it was natural, because I feel like I've always just tried to write songs in real time and in the moment of my life. And whatever I've experienced, like, that's just kind of like the roller coaster that I've been riding. This time last year, that song like takes on a different meaning every year for me. Like, and I'm hopeful this year, next year, I'm on the other end of that, saying like, hey, this time last year, like, it was a completely different picture, and maybe not for good. I just think, life is a journey, man, and I'm trying to just ride the waves as they come.
Awesome, dude. Well, congratulations with all 4 seasons of this series of EPs that you have created over the last year. And I'm very excited for you to get back on the road and for these shows to kind of happen, just because I feel like these EPs are like really need that live show in order to kind of finalize the whole feeling and emotion that goes behind them.
I agree. I'm right there with you, man. And I'm looking forward to that too.
Amazing, dude. Well, congratulations once again, and thank you so much for doing this again with me.
Dude, thank you for having me. Always. It's always a pleasure.